Well, we're on YouTube kind of inadequately, but Sam has sorted us out something. So, hello everyone back there listening on ambient audio. I hope you can hear this. This verse is going to kind of be the overarching theme for these first 2 weeks in December as we begin this journey into Christmas. Now, I actually am not I love to preach. I love to teach the scriptures. There's few things I'm more passionate about, but I find doing so at this time of the year really challenging. And you know why? Thank you for asking, Simon. Yeah, it's like, I find it challenging because we all kind of switch off our brain because we know the story. Yeah, we know the story. And it's tough to bring something that invades us and transforms us when the story is well known. Because we go on autopilot. That's what human beings do. Whenever we have the opportunity, we go on autopilot. And here's the thing. Autopilot finds a hard time connecting with God. Autopilot is actually one of the biggest threats to your intimacy with Jesus. And so what I want to do is press into something fresh, press into something timely, and yet Christmas is just so well known. And so what I want to do is come at it, give you this verse, encourage you to meditate on it daily during the time of Advent. Okay? Grab one. The kids are going to be making Christmas ornaments with this, so that'll be cool. They'll go on each of their trees. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. Whenever there is, the Christmas time stuff, I am so up for Christmas. I love it. I love the season. I love the time of year. My road this week has started putting up lights on their houses. And this has never been done before. I don't know why they're doing it this year, but they never did before. And it's wonderful. And there was just one house, one lovely lady with whom we're close friends, who was doing it for the last few years, but really hardly anyone else. And house after house, one person went crazy in the front garden with the whole reindeer Santa thing. And then this one dude who works for BT Openreach, he was cheating because he has all the equipment. He put these like icicle lights along the roof of his house, and his is he's on the right side of a terrace. And so literally it's midnight and you think it's daytime. These lights are so bright, right? I could get a tan if I walked over to his house and just stood there. They are so bright. And it's wonderful. I love it. I love it. Because this hasn't been a reality on my road since we moved to Kansas. And yes, we have ours as well. So that's wonderful. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's not what Christmas is primarily about. It doesn't stop me from enjoying it, but it's not what it's primarily about. What it's primarily about is this verse. These 2 weeks, I'm going to be talking with you. And at the carol service, someone is going to be sharing, it might be me, we don't know who yet, that Christmas is actually a search and rescue. Christmas is a search and rescue. It is an agenda, it is a purpose, it is a plan, it is focused, and it is passionate. Christmas is not about warm fuzzies and Yule logs and making sure the dinner is just from M&S and all of that, right? It can become about so many things. And what I want to introduce to us as a family is that Christmas is fundamentally and almost exclusively a search and rescue mission from the heart of the living God. It is about a passion of a father to get his kids home. That's Christmas. That's why this year we are pressing so much into generosity. Right? We're spending money that we could do things for us, and it's in our savings account, and we're spending that money to give Christmas to families that don't have a Christmas if we don't do so. There's at least 5 families that we're going to give Christmas to this year that won't have it if it wasn't provided for. And these types of things are the heart of God at Christmas time. So these 2 weeks, I'm going to teach from 2 parables in Luke 15. In Luke 15, Jesus presses it. Luke has kind of organized his material in writing this memoir of Jesus. And he's organized Luke 15 as this house this kind of center of his teaching that reveals God's heart towards humans. There is something of the nature of God being revealed in Luke chapter 15. So I don't know if you want to turn to it. It's going to be up there, but maybe if you turn to it on your phone, if you've got a Bible with you, you flip to it, it will be something you will look back at this week. If that's the case, then please flip over to it. Luke 15. And there's 3 parables in Luke 15, and I'm going to spend some time this week on the first one, and next week on the third. Is that cool? Yeah? Jesus is teaching these parables to help Israel know what God is like. God's heart is a certain way. And he's trying to tell us what that heart is like so that we can lean into him. Because something crazy happened, guys. Look at me. Sorry, I know the verse is up there, but still look at me. Something crazy happened. Jesus ascended and said, over to you. 2,000 years ago. So who's the carriers of this heart now? Yeah. We are the ones that get to carry this heart. The problem is, many people who go to church don't realize that this is his heart. And so we carry it poorly. And so let's look at this verse. Okay, this is the first parable. Now the tax collectors and sinners, those were people who were irreligious. The sinners were people who were Jewish, a part of the Jewish nation, but were not connected to the faith. Right? The atheists and the agnostics of Israel. Tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. I love that. They were gathering. There was something about what Jesus was doing that caused them to seek him out. He wasn't seeking them out, they were seeking him out. There are other points in time when he seeks them out, specifically because culture doesn't allow for them to seek him out, because they are his priority. But in this situation, they're flocking to him. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? To be able to share this amazing news of a loving God with people who need it, and they're going, would you tell me, please? That's the dynamic happening. Now, the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and teachers of the law muttered. This man welcomes sinners, and he eats with them. Remember, eating with someone was a powerful statement of identification and value to that other person you're eating with. Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? He almost seems to be assuming this. Right? I got 100 sheep, I lose one. Isn't it obvious? You go after that one and you leave the other 99. Duh. But it's not duh, is it? Right? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me. I have found my lost sheep. I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Let's just go through verse by verse on this one, okay? Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Let me read this to you. Back to the glasses. Through Isaac, not Ishmael. Through Jacob, not Esau. Through Ephraim, not Manasseh. Through David, not his older brothers. At a time when women were valued for their beauty and fertility, God chooses old Sarah, not young Hagar. He chooses Leah, not Rachel, unattractive Leah, whom Jacob doesn't love. He chooses Rebekah, who can't have children. Hannah, who can't have children. Samson's mother, who can't have children. Elizabeth, John the Baptist's mother, who can't have children. Why? Over and over and over again, God says, I will choose Nazareth, not Jerusalem. I will choose the girl nobody wants. I will choose the boy everybody has forgotten. Why? Is it just that God likes underdogs? No. He is telling us something about salvation itself. Every other religion and moral philosophy tells you to summon up all of your strength and live as you ought. Therefore, they appeal to the strong, to the people who can pull it together, the people who can summon up the blood. Only Jesus says, I have come for the weak. I have come for those who admit they are weak. I will save them, not by what they do, but through what I do. Throughout Jesus' life, the apostles and the disciples keep saying to him, Jesus, when are you going to take power and save the world? And Jesus keeps saying, you don't understand. I'm going to lose all my power and die to save the world. Amen. Jesus appeals to the sinners
and to the lost and to the tax collectors and to the prostitutes, because they're who he came for, the ones who need this. But in this situation, they're the ones who are furthest away from it. They're the ones who feel like their inability, their brokenness, their struggles make them disqualified. And what Jesus is saying, it's the opposite of disqualified. It's for you. And here's the secret. We all are tax collectors and sinners. The disenfranchised, the disadvantaged, the prostitutes, the irreligious. It's all of us. Some of us are just better at hiding it. I wonder what countercultural way of living could put the Church of Jesus Christ back in a position to be the kind of place that gathers broken people again. I wonder if we could do things and be the kinds of people that dynamic would happen again. See, that's my question. As a leader, as a pastor, as a disciple, I'm asking this question. How do we get there? How do we become that people? How do we become his church in that way? That's what wakes me up at night. But of course, the religious folk here, the religious leaders and the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, who are all about performance, right? They muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." They're offended because spirituality or religion is about performance to them, which is just a self-delusion, because none of us perform. And the word here, muttered, is the normal word for muttered, except it's got a prefix on it that exaggerates it. So really what it words means is very loud and very heavy complaining. They were making their dissatisfaction known. Do you guys ever have someone in your life who goes, Have you ever had that? Where you explain yourself and their only response is, oh. And they could have written a book with that one syllable, right? Oh. You know exactly what I'm talking about, because we all have those people. That's what they're doing. They are passive-aggressively communicating their displeasure, their dissatisfaction, their disapproval. And their challenge is that Jesus welcomes sinners and eats with them. They were scandalized at him, and in so doing, what they're trying to do, they're throwing an accusation at him. They're saying, if you like that kind of company, you must actually be like them. And that's the difference. The Pharisees define you by the company you keep. And Jesus says, the company you keep is about my mission. It's about my heart. It's not about social status. Verse 3, then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? So Jesus is here telling a story, a parable, which is really a basket with handles on it. That's the way the Jews looked at these stories. What he's trying to do is take truth and give them handles. And so he's trying to help you see that this is what God's like. God, if he lost one of the 99, he'd leave the 99 and go after the one, actively seeking them out, search and rescue. That's what this verse is. For the Son of Man came to seek. Not just come, make an announcement, and see who responds to it. Right? No, to seek. It's a proactive and save, rescue those who are lost. And I don't know about you, but that's me. So I want to show you a 5-minute video here, okay? And I want to show you a 5-minute video that is about Mount Everest. And it illustrates this idea of search and rescue so beautifully, because what I want you to do is feel this search and rescue idea that Jesus is trying to convey in your bones. So I'm going to give you a modern day parable to couple with Jesus's ancient parable. Is that cool? You up for that? Yeah. It's about 5-6 minutes long, and hopefully it plays okay. Shall we give it a go, Ann?
Mount Everest, the temperature was 15 below zero and falling by the minute. Lincoln Hall, father, husband, mountaineer, was lost to the frigid night. Or so everyone thought. Mazur might have expected to find Lincoln Hall's body at any moment. He'd been climbing since midnight with 2 clients and a Sherpa, aiming to summit Everest mid-morning. Now, at 7:30, the summit was just 2 hours away.
We were in the clear, and we all felt good, and we felt so lucky. I mean, the summit was just above us, and we knew we were going there.
But before they reached the summit, a flash of color caught Dan's eye.
And I saw in the distance a little bit of yellow fabric on the ridge top. And I thought, oh, what is that? A tent or something? And then I got a little closer, and I could see that it was a person.
And as Dan approached, the scene that unfolded before him was just plain weird.
He had his jacket unzipped, and his arms were out of the sleeves of the jacket. So you could see his chest bare, and he looked very distressed. And then he saw me, almost as if I think he thought I was part of maybe a dream that he was having.
Did you think anyone could be up there in those conditions and still be alive?
I have never seen anything like that before. The thing that struck me was that how he was holding his hands up and he had no gloves on. You could see like his fingers had frozen and they were sort of a waxy yellow, and then below that it looked like normal skin, and he was holding up his hands like this and sort of looking around. I was blown away.
Unbelievably, the stranger spoke to him.
He said, I imagine you're surprised to see me here. Because I probably had a look on my face of, total shock with my jaw down, And I said, can you tell me your name? And then he was almost sort of pleased and surprised sounding, and he said, "Yeah, yes, I know my name." And then he said, "My name is Lincoln Hall."
Lincoln Hall? Could it really be that the same man who'd been declared dead more than 12 hours ago was alive? Dan Mazur snapped some pictures, even as he began to help Hall.
And I said, "Let's get your gloves on. Let's get your hat on. Let's get your coat on. Let's get some oxygen on you."
Dan quickly understood Lincoln had been there all night long. It was a miracle Hall was alive. But Dan knew he didn't have much more time left.
We gave him a lot of water. We gave him some candy bars, some Snickers bars, and we started trying to get him to put his gloves on. I said, "Okay, hold out your hand, Lincoln," and he put his glove on, put his other glove on. Okay, we found his hat, put your hat on.
But despite the biting minus 20-degree temperature, Hall resisted Dan's efforts like an unruly child.
And then he started taking his gloves off. He started taking his hat off and unzipping his coat. And I was saying, "No, you know, it's really cold out here. Why don't you keep those gloves on? It looks like your hands are frozen. Why don't you keep your hat on?" Because he was also shivering really badly.
Mazur realized Hall was hallucinating.
He thought he was on a boat ride. He kept saying, "I'm surprised you guys are on this boat ride with me."
And they were surprised that Lincoln was trying to get out of his imaginary boat. In reality, he was perched on a high ridge and in danger of falling to his death.
You got to remember, he's on a platform like this with 8,000 feet on this side and 6,000 feet on this side, and he's kind of like leaning back, and he has his arms hanging down the top of this 8,000-foot cliff, and, he was very unstable.
Just then, two more climbers making their push for the summit approached. Dan hailed them. What followed was one of those moments on Everest that defines who you are and what you believe.
He kind of looked away, and he said, "I don't speak English." And he kept going. Okay, doesn't speak English. I don't know. And his partner came along, and, I said, "Good morning," and he said, "Hi," and he kept going.
Dan discovered later that both climbers did speak English. It was reminiscent of what had happened to the British climber David Sharp, who'd been left to die on Everest 10 days before. Lucky for Lincoln Hall, Dan Mazur was there. Dan and the two climbers he was guiding tied the unsteady Hall into their own climbing rope for safety. They radioed to Hall's team at base camp, but no one there was expecting news about Hall.
Finally, they got someone who would talk on the radio, and the first thing he said to me on the radio was, "You mean he's still alive?" And I said, "Yeah, he's alive, he's talking, he's moving around, and he needs a rescue, and we need to have you guys come up here right away."
At that moment, three men's dreams of reaching the summit died so that Lincoln Hall could live. They stayed for 4 hours watching over him until the rescue team arrived. It took Hall 11 hours to stumble 2 miles to safety at a camp lower on the mountain. Lincoln Hall had been left for dead just below the summit of Everest, but because of the choice 3 climbers made, he lived to tell the tale. But he lived to tell us his story, his hands and right foot still bandaged due to severe frostbite, his voice still hoarse from the bitter cold.
Why did you live?
Well, I guess that's a good question. So easy to die in that sort of situation. I knew that because I know people who've died that way. My first memory of that meeting was Dan grabbing me and telling me to sit down.
I'm particularly struck by the climbers that kept going. To understand that life is a search and rescue mission, to understand that one's purpose is search and rescue, requires a reworking of our priorities. Okay? I mean, we could spend months on just that. These guys would have spent minimum 50,000 pounds to climb Everest, right? Upwards of 100,000, many of them. And I'm sure that was in the mind of those 2 climbers that just kept walking, right? And yet, Dan and his Sherpa and his colleague, they stopped. And they gave up this quest within sight of the summit because he mattered. And that's that quote right there. The summit is still there, and we can go back. Lincoln only has one life. That promotion, that house, that degree is still there. That person only has one life. Yeah. There is a reworking of priorities to understand this parable applied to our real lives. Search and rescue. You leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until you find it. His whole attention is upon the lost. That's the thing. He goes, so I got 99. I mean, that's not bad, is it? For many of us, we're like, well, at least I still got 99. And we lost one, but what's that? That's a few meals. It's fine. These 99 will do. You just keep cracking on. But for Jesus, the equation works very differently. That one. It's a reworking of our mindset. 99, yes, they matter, but the one. I'm going to reorient my existence for the one. His whole attention is upon the one who is lost. And this is a huge purpose statement for his church, to whom the search and rescue baton has been passed. That's why we're going to spend the month of January praying. That's why we're praying in December on this Advent calendar. We're going to pray for Christmas to come to these different areas, because we are agreeing with God, with his heart, that matters to us as well. And this, my friends, is Christmas. I love the image he gives. When he finds the lost sheep, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders. Now, I've heard some dodgy teaching about this that says that the shepherd breaks the legs of the lamb so it can't run away again. And therefore, that's why the shepherd has to carry the sheep. That's actually taught fairly widely. It is actually profoundly incorrect. The reason he carries the sheep is because the sheep's exhausted. They've been trying to do life and everything in their own strength. So he picks it up, and he is that sheep's strength now. That's the meaning of that. And then he says this, and I just want to conclude with this thought. You go to the next one for me, Ann. And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders. Keep going. And he goes home, and then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Now, this is like a microscopic insight into the heart of God. What gives him joy? The lost getting found. Rejoice with me. And he encourages all of his family to rejoice with him, because this matters so much to him. The heart of God is being revealed. This feels more important than the faces I'm seeing. I'm sorry. It looks, I hope this is landing and you're just in thought. But this is really, really big. If you go to the next one for me. Next one. That's what it looked like. Now we'll do that over a football match during the World Cup, won't we? And I love it. I love it. There's not a beer left in the entire crowd. It's all gone. They probably paid £8 for that beer. And it's just, But that's the heart of the Father. That's the heart of the Father. You know, I mean, English society is pretty reserved until football gets into the equation, isn't it? And all of a sudden, they find their emotion. What if that What if this mattered as much to us as it does to him, and that is what it looked like when we baptize somebody? It's not hold my beer, it's lose my beer. See, that's the heart of your Father. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. This is what Christmas is about. This is why Christmas is. And that's the whole reason for the season. All the other stuff, it's not the reason, but it's good, and it's fun, and I love it, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to eat too much, and I've already been into 3 panettones, and mostly ate them myself. Okay? But that's not the reason. No, the big ones. Aldi, really nice. This is the reason for the season. Yeah?